Hi there, it's Paulie here. Oddly enough, I used to be a very high ranked martial artist. Literally from about the age of 8 or 9, I trained initially in jiu-jitsu, but once I got into my teens, it was weapons. I am a Japanese weapons expert. So, Katori Shinto Ryu, which is one of the oldest Japanese forms, spent about 25 years in that. And contact arts such as kendo, a very old school, which included throws and trips. Isn't that fun? Tear someone's mask off or smash them against a wall to win. Ju kendo, which is bayonet fencing in full armor. Sashing that forward into sojutsu, which is spear fencing in full armor. And tan kendo, which is knife fighting and short sword fighting in full armor. Brutal, brutal. Probably the last truly magnificently useful martial art. The martial art of just shiving the living crap out of something and not getting shivved back. You know, absolutely. It's brutal. But the funny thing about it is you end up in a bubble. And bubbles are a strange thing, a toxic bubble, a toxic culture. Where kind of to fit in, you're trying to prove that you're tough enough to keep going, to never say no, to take any punishment that's handed out. Now, don't get me wrong, the people I trained with were hilarious. Those were some of the funniest people I've ever met. We would laugh and we would just have such a great time. One of my kendo instructors, Toby, was just so funny. But there would be this wonderful rapport. He'd have this thing, which you do. I fenced as well, but in this, if you trip someone, go sprawling on the ground. You hit them when they're on the ground. You smash them while they're lying there on the ground. And I won't. I absolutely refuse to, because someone might honestly be hurt. I've knocked you down on the ground. If I start wailing on you while you're lying there, I could literally bludgeon you unconscious. So I won't, but the instructor's down there, oh, hit me, come on, hit me. I'd reach out a hand. No, I won't hit you, no. Because, well, if you're coming and standing back up again, it's because I let you. So, really means you kind of hear out of my pity, really. It sort of means like I own you. It's sort of like I've just got a little piece of you, and that's just going to be mine forever now. Just right, that's it, it's on. But we're laughing about it. But on the other hand, I'm making the joke and laughing about it. But this guy seriously couldn't understand why someone wouldn't literally put the boot in on someone who's down on the ground. With the Jukendo and the spear, the impact is so enormous from having a whole body locked behind this small spear point as you jump forward, that the impact can literally throw your target off his feet. You'll get bruised clean through solid plate armor. You'll get bruised right through it. Blunt trauma, bang, you end up black and blue. But it can catapult you backwards into walls. And so I would maneuver so that my opponent is never backed into a corner against a wall. If I lunged at you, hit you, smash you back into a wall, and I'm still coming forward, there would be crush injuries. I might break your shoulder blade or something against the wall. So but I know I was the only one that was doing this toxic thing. So there is a series of exercises in kendo which are designed entirely to break you down, literally leave you almost unconscious. Formal kagare geiko. You rampage in. There's usually a senior instructor just standing there. You have to rampage in, and there are a series of frenzied attacks you have to make, and you're not allowed to stop, you're not allowed to hesitate. You just have to keep going, full speed, full speed, full speed, full speed. You race in, cut for the head, cut for the hand, cut for the head, cut for the hand, cut for the head, cut for the head, doodle, cut for the dog, cut for the dog. Keep running, 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 and now come out into that kitty cash exercise. Faster, 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 back. At the end of it, in armor, you're almost hysterical. You are so tired. But you'll be then taken and thrown into the next person who's going to stand there while you do it, and again and again. And the idea is you literally start blacking out, which is what they want. Because now you're at that point. Now we throw you into actual fighting bouts. Because now that we've completely destroyed you, you've got nothing left but technique, which is actual bullshit. I haven't got technique left. All I've got is basically just sheer bloody mindedness, which means a 50-something-year-old will stand there in a guard position and just, if someone comes and attacks them, they'll hit them back. But technique, actual, I will now move exactly and do the correct cuts and whatever. No way, you're not going to be doing that. You're just going to be flailing out trying to get any hit you can. This type of activity is a bad idea if you're 18. Terrible idea. If you're in your 50s, it's a really bad idea. If you're a 50s cancer survivor with one kidney, it's near suicide. So I was having to take monthly blood tests as part of my cancer thing, just seeing if the cancer was back. And I noticed there's burnt muscle tissue in my blood. And what's this? What is happening? As you explain your martial arts training, suddenly they no, you can't do that. They bring in urologists and all this sort of stuff, and then no, this ends. So all right, I bowed out. Interesting question. I wasn't enjoying any of this, by the way. I wasn't enjoying the training anymore. It had gotten too hard. At that very disified, very high level, it's just brutality. It's not polishing. There wasn't much fun, joshing, and jocularity. It was a grind. So why didn't I leave earlier? It's very cultic. It becomes very much a part of your identity. So you tie your identity in with your martial accomplishments. You would describe yourself literally a swordsman first or a spearsman first. That's the first thing you'd introduce yourself as. Yeah, I do this. It was very important to you, and that's very hard to let go. Very hard to let go. Particularly when it's been part of your life, a dozen hours a week for as long as you can remember. Since teenage years, it's defining characteristic that this is what you do. It's very cult-like, that driving forward. Australia, it would be 40 degrees of heat. You're in full armor. You're training at that level. No one's taking a stop to drink because that would be weakness, and you can't show weakness. I gave up martial arts and I went into dance. I'm a performance dancer these days. I have to keep doing some pretty heavy physical training just to, not go nuts and to stay in condition. And that's been wonderful. I almost cried the first time I did dance stuff. The warm-ups are grueling. Lots of stretching, lots of balance and so on. But it's not like trying to punish you and break you. But when they say, okay, now let's everyone have a drink, you almost cry. It's like, you don't want me to die. Thank you. Slightly different world. I often wonder, though, why did it take so long to leave? Part of it was a comrade feeling. There were some of these clubs, particularly for the bayonet fighting and the knife fighting and so on, very small. I knew if I left, I've let the group down. There might not be enough people for that club to keep going. Not enough people to pay the fees to rent the hall, etc., etc. We were the only ones in, this part of the country doing those things. So, you don't want to let your comrades down. You don't want to look like you're giving in too, because you read all these books where they're saying people are always looking for an excuse to basically not turn up to training. And that's weak. So if you're sick, still turn up to train. My instructor for Kendo He decides to take up surfing. He gets dumped into rocks. Spinal damage. Neck brace, spinal brace, thing round his ribs and everything to hold him erect. Turns up to training. Oh, yeah, I'll just put that one. No, oh, no, mate, I'm not hitting you around the head with a lump of wood. Oh, well, I'll just do the not. Have you been told not to like raise your arms above your head and this sort of, yeah, don't. All right, you've come here. You're the instructor. Just sit there and tell us what to do. How's about that? It's very toxic. It's a very toxic macho sort of thing, isn't it? I swear I was the only trans person involved, and they really weren't ready for that either. It was like, couldn't handle it. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure why I took so long to leave. I'm very glad I did. I think I only survived because I did, because I don't think I'd have survived that level of pushing myself too far. I think it would have actually wrecked my health. Yeah, but I did. Someone looked and gave me advice and said you should leave, and I looked at myself and I said I should, and I managed to let it go. I think we tie too much of our sense of self-worth in with these little things, and that might be why we see some of these toxic gamers and why we see some of the ultra right-wing gamers who just seem so invested in their bullshit and they can't seem to let it go. Someone told me that it was time to leave, and I listened and I left and I looked for an alternative. Maybe we need to do that for some of these toxic voices out there. I know they don't listen when we speak to them, but maybe there still needs to be an olive branch held out. Guys, you can let it go. You can let that poison go, and you can reinvent yourself into a better person. Ask any trans person. Ask any of us. Yeah, you can reinvent yourself. But they need to know there's an alternative, which does mean, and here's the bad news, we have to be willing to welcome them back if they let that bullshit go. But they have to let the bullshit go. They have to stop this racist, misogynistic nightmare. But if they do, then we have to ante up. And we have to say, you really are welcome at our tables. But not if you're going to be toxic. Anyway, just some small thoughts.